The village nestled beneath the whispering peaks knew old man Elara as the quiet sage who lived beyond the crooked willow. He wasn't unkind, merely distant. His world contained within walls of weathered scrolls, and the intricate patterns of the stars he charted each night. Loneliness had become a familiar cloak, heavy and gray, woven from years spent observing life rather than living it. Children sometimes left wildflowers by his moss-covered doorstep, their bright colors seeming almost too loud against the quiet melancholy that clung to his small stone cottage like ivy. He would smile a thin, grateful smile. But the warmth never quite reached his eyes, deep pools reflecting a universe he understood intellectually, but couldn't seem to touch with his heart. The vastness of the cosmos felt less daunting than the simple act of sharing a cup of tea with a neighbor one crisp autumn evening. Drawn by a Cometa-Euro's unusual trajectory, Elara ventured deeper into the ancient Moonwood than usual. The air hummed with unseen energy, and the fallen leaves crunched like brittle parchment underfoot. High in the gnarled branches of a tree that seemed woven from silver and shadow, he spotted it. A single fruit, unlike any had catalogued in his extensive botanical tomes. It pulsed with a soft, internal light, veins of gold and amethyst swirling beneath its translucent skin. It seemed less grown and more dreamed into existence, compelled by a curiosity that overrode his usual caution. Elara reached up, his aged fingers surprisingly steady. The fruit detached with a sigh, cool and surprisingly heavy in his palm, radiating a gentle warmth that seeped into his bones. A stark contrast to the chill night air. It felt like holding captured moonlight back in the hushed solitude of his cottage. The fruit's glow intensified, casting dancing shadows on the walls lined with books. Its sweet, ethereal scent filled the small space, reminiscent of stardust and forgotten summers. Hesitation flickered within Elara, a lifetime of study warring with a sudden, inexplicable yearning. What wisdom lay locked within this luminous mystery? Could it hold answers even his vast scrolls couldn't provide? Driven by a potent mix of intellectual hunger and a deeper, unnamed ache, Elara took a tentative bite. The flesh dissolved like sponge sugar on his tongue, releasing a cascade of flavors: sunlight on dew, the crispness of mountain air, the comforting scent of old paper. Before reason could protest, he swallowed a wave of profound, impossible warmth flooded his chest, spreading outwards, a golden tide engulfing the familiar chill of his solitude. It felt like the universe itself had embraced him. He expected knowledge, perhaps visions of distant galaxies. What bloomed inside him was far more profound and unsettling, not facts, but feelings. He felt the sharp pang of the rabbit trembling in the hawthorn thicket outside, the weary contentment of the old oak tree sighing in the wind, the playful joy of the stream tumbling over smooth stones. It was as if the barriers between his own heart and the vibrant tapestry of life around him had dissolved. He gasped, clutching his chest, not from pain, but from the overwhelming intensity of connection. Tears, hot and unexpected, streamed down his weathered cheeks, carving paths through dust accumulated over years of emotional isolation. He felt the collective heartbeat of the forest, the quiet hum of the sleeping village, a symphony he would been deaf to his entire life. The loneliness shattered like thin ice, leaving him raw, exposed, and trembling with the sheer magnitude of shared existence. Then the light began. It started deep within his core, that warm golden glow he first felt upon swallowing the fruit. It intensified, pushing outwards, not painfully, but insistently. It shone through his thin tunic, illuminating the dusty corners of the cottage with a soft, welcoming radiance. Elara watched, awestruck, as his own hands became translucent vessels for the gentle luminescence. The light wasn't blinding. It was comforting, like the steady flame of a lantern in a deep, dark night. He realized, with a dawning sense of wonder rather than fear, that the fruit hadn't just opened his heart. It was transforming him into a literal beacon. The swallowed light was becoming part of him, radiating outwards from his very being, a silent testament to the connection he now felt thrumming through every fiber of his existence. Wordlessly, drawn by a force deeper than thought, Elara stepped outside. The transformation was impossible to hide. He stood on his threshold, a figure of soft, radiant light in the moon-drenched night. The effect on the natural world was immediate and profound. The trembling rabbit emerged from the thicket, drawn not by fear, but by the comforting warmth. It hopped closer, nuzzling gently against Elara's luminous leg. An owl, usually a silent shadow, landed on a nearby fence post, its large eyes reflecting the sage's glow with calm curiosity. Moths, mistaking him for the moon itself, danced harmless patterns around his head. Creatures of the night, large and small, emerged from the shadows, forming a silent, reverent circle around the glowing sage. They didn't speak, but Elara felt their simple presence. A shared peace, a wordless communion. He was no longer separate. He was a part of their world, illuminated and illuminating. News travels swiftly, even without words. In a small village touched by magic, whispers of the glowing sage reached the villagers' curiosity, tinged with apprehension, drew them towards the edge of the Moonwood. They arrived not with torches and pitchforks, but with hesitant steps and wide eyes. Huddled together for courage, they saw old man Elara, bathed in his own gentle, golden light, surrounded by the quiet forest creatures in an unprecedented truce. The harsh lines etched by years of loneliness on his face seemed softened, replaced by an expression of profound serenity and kindness that radiated outwards as surely as the light. The village children, less burdened by fear, were the first to break the silence. A small girl, clutching a wilting dandelion, stepped forward. "Sage Elara?" she whispered, her voice small in the hushed night. Are you all right? You look beautiful." Her words hung in the air, fragile and true. Elara smiled, a genuine, warm expression that crinkled the corners of his luminous eyes. He knelt, the light around him pulsing softly, making the dandelion in the girly Euro's hand seem to glow faintly. "I am more than all right, little one," he said, his voice rich and resonant, filled with a warmth the villagers had never heard. "I have swallowed the light of understanding, and it has filled the empty spaces." He gently touched the wilting flower, and a faint shimmer seemed to run through it, the yellow petals momentarily brightening. He didn't preach grand philosophies. Instead, he spoke of the rabbit's fear, the oak's strength, the stream's joy. He shared the feelings he now carried, the interconnectedness of all living things. He invited them closer, not as a distant sage, but as a neighbor finally opening his door. His cottage, once a symbol of isolation, became a gathering place bathed in its own welcoming glow. Villagers came to sit in the radiance, sharing stories, laughter, and quiet moments of peace. Elara, the sage who swallowed the light, became their living lantern, a constant, gentle reminder that even the deepest loneliness can be transformed into a beacon of warmth and connection. Glowing softly through the longest nights, the swallowed light had become shared warmth, forever changing the sage and the world around him.